How do you motivate others to take your ideas seriously? How do you become that go-to person who others look to for guidance? And how do you get others to sit up and take notice when you speak? Fortunately, Frei and Morris have developed a model that we use to assess the level of trust in our relationships, and with this, extend our influence. The trust triangle describes 3 intersecting drivers, and each driver contributes to trust in its own way. Let's take a look at these 3 drivers. The first is logic. If others understand your logic, they're more likely to have faith in you and your judgments. Next is authenticity. If others sense that you're being authentic, that is, not playing a role and not trying to manipulate them, they're more likely to be led or influenced by you. Then finally, we have empathy. When others feel you have empathy for them and are genuinely invested in their success, they're more likely to feel connected to you. When we aren't strong in a particular driver, we experience a trust wobble, and this wobble affects the amount of influence we're able to have with a person. We need to be mindful to regulate ourselves and keep developing each of the 3 drivers to maintain trust. Here are some things to consider when it comes to trust wobbles. You might have a logic wobble if your communication is unclear, you engage in long-winded explanations, or when you're unprepared to support big statements. An authenticity wobble might show up when you lack self-confidence, keep your guard up, or are overly direct and tactless. You might experience an empathy wobble when you lack consideration for others, are too task-focused, or when you hold back on saying what needs to be said to avoid conflict. If any of these resonate with you, well, that's your wobble, your weaker link. The good news is that you're not alone. Most of us have at least one wobble. Many of us have more than one, sometimes with different people. Once we know where our wobble is, we can begin to work on strengthening it, and by extension, maximize our influence. If you're not sure where to start, try out a few of these suggestions. For empathy wobbles, get curious about others and listen more than you talk. Try the 80-20 rule, where you listen 80% of the time and only talk for 20% of it. For authenticity wobbles, get to know your audience and find out where you share interests, strengths, and needs. Don't be afraid of vulnerability. For logic, use facts to ground decisions and conversations. Forget about ego and focus on what's in front of you. Remember, data doesn't tell the story, humans do. This same principle applies to influence too. Job positions don't generate influence, you do.